All right. Good morning. Let's see. Okay, hopefully my microphone is working. It does have some issues sometimes. But good morning. This is definitely something different. And I really felt called and encouraged to go live today. No expectations. I'm considering this sort of a practice mode for future self, if you will. But good morning. Welcome in. Today, I want to talk about visibility attracting opportunities. So, at first, I want to discuss sort of what visibility really means. And I have my notes here, so if you see me looking down, that's what that is. I have to have notes, otherwise, I will get completely off topic. So, and let's talk about what visibility. Look, you get to see the bloopers in real time. Let's talk about what visibility really means. Um, because there is this sort of there's been this trend of pushing people to be more visible and to put themselves out there a lot more, especially on social media. And it's good to encourage that because obviously there can be so many amazing opportunities to come from that. But what does visibility really look like? Because how can I say this? You may be encouraged to show up, but not necessarily in your most authentic way. And what visibility really is not about showing up just to show up or because somebody else said that you should. But what visibility is really about is showing up in your most real and authentic self. And we could use myself here as an example. Like, here I am, decided not to wear any makeup today. I have one broken fingernail. This is not my usual setup, but here I am in my true and authentic self, showing up and not in a performative way, not to seek attention, but really to share a message that I felt was on my heart and to be authentic to myself. So, visibility is not about vanity, it's not about showing up to seek attention. It's really allowing yourself to be seen, to be heard, and to be perceived, right? So, that's been a really big word on social media, being perceived, allowing people to create their own perceptions of you. And that can be a very scary thing, especially if it's not something that you've ever experienced before, if it's not something that you've ever tried, right? If you're not used to the idea of other people having judgments of you or having their own opinions of you that you have no control over, that can be a very scary thing. And where the fear really comes from, um, is control, right? We fear being visible, we fear being seen because the reality is we really have no control over how other people are going to see us. We have absolutely no control over what ideas and opinions people are going to form about us, right? We can try and we can do all of the things to sort of try to get people to see us in a very specific way. But at the end of the day, we have absolutely no control over people's minds and what they think of us. And that can be very scary, especially if you're a kind of person, if you grew up feeling like you had to have control of every situation in order to be comfortable, in order to be sane, in order to be safe. Feeling like you don't have control over your own image can be very scary. It can definitely lead you to feeling unsafe. And so that's where the underlying fear actually comes from. It comes from you not feeling safe. But the truth is, you are safe, okay? You are not in any danger at all if people perceive you a certain way, right? Um, that's the reality. The world is not going to end if everyone doesn't like you. The world is not going to end if you don't become popular, right? Your life is not over. And I know as teenagers, like that was sort of a thing that was really ingrained into us that if we don't become popular, if we're not liked, then our social life is over and therefore our entire life is over. But no, that's not true. That's not the reality. You can be unliked by literally everyone and you will be perfectly fine. So that is where that fear comes from. The fear of being visible and showing up as your true and authentic self really comes from your lack of control over the narrative or other people's perceptions of you. And there is this quote that I really love that reminds me of this exact topic. And it goes something like, the entire world, hold on, I should have wrote this down. Jesus was a perfect man, and he was still murdered because of how people perceived him. So something like that. God gave the world a perfect man, and they still hated him, right? So really put that into perspective. People had perfection. They had a perfect person, and he was still hated, right? There people's perception of you is 100% out of your control. You can try to be as perfect as you want to be. You can try to be as likable as you want to be, but at the end of the day, you cannot control people's perceptions of you. So what's really important is your own perception of yourself. Do you like yourself? Do you like how you're showing up? Right? Do you like the things that you're doing? That's what really matters. And so when it comes to showing up, you're not showing up for other people, you're not showing up for the attention of other people, you're showing up for yourself. You're showing up to create opportunities for yourself. You're showing up to create visibility for yourself. You're showing up for you, not anyone else. Yeah, so like I said, Yahushua was never wronged by anyone, and that's Jesus if you didn't know his Hebrew name. Yahushua was never wronged by anyone, but he was still misunderstood and still punished. So let that sink in. You don't need to try to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. Perfection is not going to get you anywhere. But what will help you is visibility, being strong enough, being brave enough to show up as your true and authentic self, regardless of how that looks to other people, because you cannot control their perceptions of you. So let's now talk about why visibility is important. If no one can see you, then no one can support you. And that really is the basis and the underlying importance of visibility. If you are continuously hiding yourself from the world, you are also hiding yourself from future opportunities. Let that sink in. If you are hiding yourself from the world, you are hiding yourself from future opportunities. Visibility is what creates opportunities. Collectively, we as a species are very community oriented, regardless of what this individuality culture push is trying to get you to think. We are very community oriented people. We need each other. We need connection. We need people. And a part of that is showing up and allowing yourself to be seen by other people. Think about think about a newborn baby, right? If a newborn doesn't have the ability to cry because they can't speak, right? So if a newborn baby doesn't have the ability to cry or to speak up for itself, it will eventually not get what it needs, right? So it has to speak up for itself. It has to make itself visible in order to get the things that it needs because it cannot provide for itself. It's a newborn baby. And the same thing still applies when we become full grown adults, right? There are things that we need, there are opportunities that we simply cannot create for ourselves, and we need the community. We need people to see us, we need people to hear us. Therefore, we have to speak up for ourselves, right? We have to put ourselves in front of the right people, in front of the right audiences in order to create those opportunities. And also, what does it look like to practice visibility? Because you can hear about it, you can learn about it. None of that matters unless you're actually practicing. And that applies to any concept that you're going to learn. It doesn't matter how much you learn and study it, it does not matter unless you are actively practicing it. So, how do you practice visibility? You have to start by letting go of your high expectations, okay? Especially if you are a firstborn daughter. Let go of those high expectations that we set for ourselves. Um, I can speak from my own experience. A lot of my high expectations are what have literally held me back from so many missed opportunities. Having these high expectations puts me in this procrastinating um mode of like, if I'm not perfect, I can't do it. If it doesn't go exactly the way I want it to go, then it's not worth doing. And a lot of things are worth doing even if they're not perfect, because a lot of things are not going to be perfect. So that's the first thing, letting go of the high expectations, because that is going to be the number one thing to hold you back. And again, in letting go of those high expectations, you have to allow yourself to show up flawed. Okay? You have to allow yourself to show up in an imperfect way, and show up without meeting even your own expectations. You have to allow yourself to show up raw and let people see the real you, as scary as it is. And remember, it's only scary because you lack control of how other people perceive you. There is no real threat, there is no real danger. On the other side of really showing up and really being yourself is a whole lot of opportunity, a whole lot of abundance. Think about all of the people that you know who achieve great things in life. They achieve them because they showed up as their real and authentic self. They are being themselves, they are chasing their dreams, and they're not thinking about other people's opinions and perceptions of them. Okay, so be okay with not showing up perfectly. You're not going to be perfect. And that is a hard pill to swallow, but swallow it. You're not going to be perfect. And another way to practice visibility and practice showing up is to focus on showing up consistently. Okay. And consistency, I know you've heard this word, it goes around and around and around, especially on social media. But consistency is often taught as repetition and just doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's not consistency. Consistency is the same thing as discipline. It's not about how many times you do something, it's about why you're doing it. Are you doing it just to say that you're being consistent, just to say that you're being disciplined? Because if you are, that's not real consistency. Real consistency is doing it for whatever your cause is. Real consistency is doing it in spite of how you feel, in spite of your high expectations, right? In spite of being vulnerable, in spite of what other people may think of you. Real consistency is showing up and staying true to yourself. Consistency is not about trying to beat an algorithm or trying to get yourself out there or get your product or your message or your words out there as much as possible. Real consistency is discipline, okay? It is doing it for your cause, doing it despite all of the other external factors. And when you allow yourself to show up consistently and not for, again, like the sake of some algorithm or to push some message or some agenda, when you allow yourself to show up consistently for yourself, not for other people or other things, then you again create better opportunities for yourself. And so, circling back to what I said earlier, if you can allow yourself to show up and be visible to others, then you will start to unlock more opportunities for yourself. Visibility is really the bridge between resourcefulness and abundance. And this is exactly what I teach in my program, Abundance by Design. This program is all about pushing yourself out there, asking for what you need, knowing your worth, and learning how to create opportunities for yourself using what you already have, okay? Because most of the time, we already have exactly what we need. We just have to expand our minds and sort of think outside of the box, if you will. So that's what that program is all about, how to create opportunities, income, and influence from what you already have. Because abundance really comes from mastering your mindset, your systems, and your story, how you show up, how you present yourself to others, right? Being your whole and authentic self, regardless of how other people are going to perceive it. And I'm going to keep saying that because you cannot control other people's perceptions of you. You cannot control other people's perceptions of you. And that is so important to recognize. So, if this sounds like something that you're interested in, I will have the link to sign up in the description box for this video. Um, I am done with my notes, and so therefore I am done talking. If there are any questions, I will take any questions that you may have or any comments. But if not, I will say this was a great first live. Um, Definitely push myself out of my comfort zone, and hopefully there are more lives like this in the future. I loved it. I definitely love pushing myself to be something better, and I definitely think that this was a great way to do that. All right. Anyway, thank you ladies so much for watching. Again, if you are interested in that program that I mentioned, Abundance by Design, it will be available on my website. I will have the direct link down in the description box below. And if you enjoy this type of content, definitely subscribe so you don't miss any lives. Make sure you turn on your notifications, and I shall see you in the next video.